The wheel loads graph under handling are another set of insightful graphs. Just like the name of the page implies, these graphs are trying to estimate the total load on each tire, the total vertical load on each tire. The top graph is the front left tire. The second from the top is the front right tire, the rear left, and then the rear right. And this is able to be achieved because in RST, we have car parameters. And if we know the travel of the suspension and we know all the different stiffness elements that add stiffness to the suspension, we can kind of do that conversion from travel to loads. But this does require a lot of the car parameters to be filled out. So for these to be correctly populated, you need to make sure that you're adding the ARB rates, the spring rates, the installation ratios, and the dampener values. With all those filled in, you can use this graph. And again, all these are the total wheel loads. So this will try to calculate the load on each of the wheel for all of those combined. We have another graph called the component wheel loads under handling, which breaks them out. But this is kind of summarizing all those things together to give you kind of an overall picture. I don't really use these graphs all too often. The reason why is we're not really interested typically in looking at the total load on each tire without respect to the other tires, right? Anytime we're talking about balance, we're trying to factor or have some type of thing to compare it to. So a lot of times we're comparing the front to the rear. And then for total loads, we typically will compare the inside tire to the outside tire to get that axle load transfer. And then we're going to compare that to the front to the rear. So I use this under suspension tab and then lateral stiffness distribution. But sometimes I'll come in here just to see how things are kind of changing. So let's go to corner one. This is some Silverstone setup data that we did when we were doing the 488 setup. And let's go to turn one, which is COPS. COPS is a really high downforce turn. So you can see as I roll through the turn, the front left goes up, the load goes up. Again, it's a right-hand turn, so that this is the outside tire. It goes up in load. And the rear, the right side tire, the inside tire goes down in load. And it goes to like negative, let's just say 2,000, right? So we know that the total load transfer here is 3,000 minus 2,000, so about 5,000 newtons here. And you can see after a while, this line kind of levels off. And this is when we get to the steady state part of the corner. So here when the loads are still changing, that's the transient phase or that corner entry phase. And then once it kind of evens out, that's when we're pretty much steady state. And you can see up here, we still have some oscillations, but they're not too bad. But you can see here on this part of the turn, we are getting quite a lot of oscillations on the outside tire. So that might kind of give us an idea that we might have some load patch variation here, and we might need to do something about it. So we might need to change the dampening or maybe change the springs to help keep that load a little bit more flat through there. You can see on some turns here, we have a lot of oscillations here, right? You can see how loaded this outside tire is right here. So again, when we're talking about these total loads, you want to look at it compared to the rear, but sometimes you want to compare over a stint, right? So here I have the first lap of the stint, and this is when the car is going to be its heaviest. It's got the most fuel inside of it, right? But over time, over the stint, we're going to burn some of that fuel. So here I'm going to select the last stint here, and let me kind of show you here. If we look at that steady state where we had that little bit of oscillation, you can see the second set of data, which is now the blue line, is a little bit less in magnitude than that red side, and the inside tire is about the same. And the reason why we have a little bit less load on the outside tire is because we have less fuel load, right? So that sprung mass is a little bit less. And we know total wheel loads depends on the total mass of the car. So because the mass of the car is a little bit less, we have a little less load transfer through there, which means we'll have a little bit more grip through the corner, right? So sometimes it kind of helps to see how these loads are changing as the stint goes on. Again, to zoom out, it gives you a good indication. One thing I like to check too is this at the end of the straight, how my loads are kind of changing, right? You can see there's a lot of oscillations here. might need a little bit more dampening. This isn't really a big issue, but if I saw that we're having a lot of oscillations like this into the corner entry, I might want to do something about it. So that's the total wheel loads, guys. Again, it's just trying to measure the total wheel loads on each tire, the total vertical load. Typically, we want to look at this compared to the other tires, but this breaks it out each tire by tire. I hope you guys find this informational. If you guys have any questions, please let us know in the Discord. I'll catch you guys later.